Everyone's so quiet. Can you hear me? Everyone hear me okay? Yes, excellent, excellent. Well, most of you know me. I've been here for the last several years. When we were looking at what to talk about today, and we were talking about how long the company has been in business, 40 years. To put it in perspective, I was 3 when this company started. So how many people in this room are 39 years or younger? Yeah, none of us were here when this started, right? So when people ask me, well, what's the difference between DAC and any other company out there? All you got to say is 40 years doing the same thing, and we're still doing the same thing. So over the last 10 years, I think, I know you. See, I know everybody enough. Dr. Duran doesn't know everybody as much, but I know you all, so I can do that. So what I thought I'd talk about today was just the relationship between Performance Horse Nutrition and DAC. It's really been over the last 13 years. They started in 2010, as you saw earlier. And really, back in the early days, it was a lot of reformulation and labels, as they mentioned. And then just talk about a few of the newer products that we've brought out over the years. They still seem new because they're my babies, but things like Cool Gut that we have had for a while. But just touch on some of those again. I know that there were a lot of hands earlier for new people that have never been to DAC Days before. So sometimes I get worried that I'm going to say the same things over again. But for those new people, it will be new information. And I know that there will be a lot of questions. I let Dr. Duran talk about all the hard stuff. So I know there's only so much room in our brains in a day for information, and we have certainly filled it up this morning with some really cool information about the GI Pro 3. So I don't have too much hard information that I'm going to expect you to remember. So Performance Horse Nutrition, just for those of you that maybe want to know a little bit more about that relationship and about where we started. Performance Horse Nutrition was started in 2002 by Dr. Duran, who was up here earlier. And the goal was really just to advance horse feeding, the science of horse feeding. Any of you that have heard me talk, though, know one of the things that I pride myself on is taking science up here, taking it to a level that we can all understand, whether it's a kid in 4-H, pony club, a veterinarian, an Amish meeting. I want to make sure that the information that we give you, everybody can understand, and not only understand, but turn around and tell that to somebody else. Especially for you dealers that I know I will see you once a year, maybe once every few years, but you see your customers every single day, and it's so absolutely critical that you can understand the message and then that you can relay it to your customers and not get tongue-tied and feel like, oh, well, it sounded really good, but I have no idea how to describe it. So it's really important that you can do that. So that's one of our main goals, is to disseminate that information in a really straightforward way. Now, DAC is the only supplement company that we work with in the United States. We work with other feed companies and hay companies, but DAC is the only supplement company that Performance Horse Nutrition works with. And as I mentioned, we utilize science. We take that science. We've been fortunate to build those relationships with companies like Kemin and Alltech and do this research with them. I mean, this is one of the first products that we've done absolutely so much research on, the GI Pro 3. There's so much science behind that, because when I started investigating the microbiome, and I have 2 little kids, I have a 9 and a 7-year-old, and I'm so conscious about what they're eating and their behavior, and am I affecting anything, and started digging deeper into probiotics and prebiotics and realizing that they are very, very valuable, but oh, by the way, most of them aren't arriving to you alive, and they're dead, and yeah, they confer some health benefit. So it really became very important for me as well to pursue that, to make sure that we're filling that hole. Not only are we doing that, we are leading the way that others are now developing products, because that's such a huge hole that these probiotics are are all dead, and that's just not something people had been evaluating. So we're leading other manufacturers to change the way they're doing research and developing products. So I think that's pretty neat that you have such control over the way the industry is actually going. Over the years, we've used all kinds of different ingredients, novel ingredients. Some of you will come to me and say, well, I've heard about this, or so-and-so's using that. I think we should put it in a DAC product. And you know that oftentimes I'm a little slow, Dr. Duren and I are a little slow to pick up on some of that, because everything that we utilize in the products is backed by science. There's got to be an element of science. There's got to be some truth to it, and we've got to be able to research and make sure that what we're putting in the products has scientific validity, as well as being functional and actually being used. We'll talk a little later on about the DAC metabolic. And for a long time, do we have a supplement for laminitis? Do we have a supplement for metabolic causes? And for so long, the actual novel ingredients that other companies were using, there wasn't enough good science. There wasn't enough research to say that it was actually going to do anything. So we really took our time and made sure that we were utilizing ingredients that would work. Now, you can easily sell anything. So 15 years ago, we could have come out with a metabolic product and easily sold it, but with no good intention, right? You've got to have the science there to make sure that you're not only selling products, but you're selling good quality products. You saw Dr. Duren. Dr. Duren was the one that started Performance Horse Nutrition. I had just moved to America in 2001. I moved over here from Australia on a scholarship, and I was still in grad school. But he started Performance Horse Nutrition. He's from Idaho, if you didn't hear that from him. Did his master's and PhD at the University of Kentucky, and he is immersed in exercise and physiology. So the racing industry is his playground. He loves racehorses, anything to do with racehorses, to the point that sometimes people can't pay their bills, so he takes a racehorse's payment. A horse is never free. A free horse is never free. So, but he's the boss, so we let him do whatever he wants. Me, you know me. I'm originally from Australia. I moved here in 2001. I went on a scholarship to go to graduate school. Did a master's and PhD in equine nutrition at Virginia Tech. I grew up in very rural Australia, so the outback. People ask me, you from the outback? Yeah, I actually was from the outback. My mother moved from New Zealand to Australia, had me, and we lived in the middle of nowhere. But then I went to undergrad, did an undergraduate degree in animal science, and then moved over here. I was meant to go to grad school, do not get an American boyfriend, and graduate, and then I was going to stay 5 years and go home. Well, that was 2001, and we're 2023, and I have a husband and a farm and a couple of kids, and I'm a citizen, so I didn't quite listen. But anyway, that's my story. From Virginia Tech, I went on to work for Performance Horse Nutrition. It really has been the best thing that I've ever done. Dr. Duren, he's not here, so we can talk about him now. He's been one of the best teachers ever. When he mentioned, Randy was talking earlier about Dr. Pierce Lyons, and the only person in the world to work with would have been Dr. Duren. He's really the only person in the world that does this. There's one other company that also consults, but they are not teachers by any means. So as a young person going out into the world, especially going into equine nutrition, you got two ways to go. You can go work in a university and teach kids, or you can go into industry. Well, when you're a graduate student, you learn all about your little area of expertise. So I learned all about reproduction, and I was palpating mares and breeding mares and doing all of that. Then you get out in the real world, and now customers ask you about natural fly control and tying up and racehorses. And I was like, I don't know anything about any of this. And Dr. Duren has been really helpful over the years, but also the clients that we work with. I mean, I was very young when I first started working with DAC. This was one of the first customers that I started working with. And I could say that these people, everyone here, they're all family now. We've seen RJ grow up. I've grown up here. I've had 2 kids while I've been working here. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from every single one of the reps. Randy mentioned how much he learned from Trapper. I mean, there's so much that I learn from every single one of the reps. Andy's going to get up afterwards, and he'll tell you that when I first rode with Andy, I just kept saying, no, oh, no. Actually, he would say, is this right? I've heard this. And I would say, no. But over the years, I've learned so much about business and being a good salesperson from Andy, watching people like Katie grow her territory. The first time I did meetings with Katie, her truck had a hole in where your feet go, and it was freezing, and I had her horse blanket wrapped around my feet. Everything in the back was going to kill us. Every time she stopped, it would fly forward. And we got to the meeting, and I said, look, Katie, we're going to have to go to the hotel first. I have got to soak my feet in hot water because I think I've got frostbite. And then we get to the meeting, and I said, okay, Katie, you've got to get up and introduce me. She was like, what? I'm not talking. I am not talking. I was like, oh, yes, you are. And she got up, and now you can't stop the girl. So, I mean, it's just been amazing to watch everybody. And I'm missing a lot of people, but working with everybody, it has been amazing. So, we also have Rebecca. Now, most of you won't get to know Rebecca. Rebecca works in our office, but the DAC reps know Rebecca. Tina knows Rebecca very well. She helps us with a lot of our marketing. She's kind of our Molly. She does our Facebook work as well, a lot of our billing. But, she's behind the scenes, and we would be lost without her. These are some of the partners that we work with, and we really do call it a partnership because each one of these clients, when you work with Performance Horse Nutrition, you're kind of under an umbrella of Performance Horse Nutrition, and it's been really, really neat to see how all of these groups work together. We've actually got a rep from Pool and Grain here today, and that's one of the relationships that I'm so proud of. Pool and Grain is a feed company in the Northeast, and those reps work so closely with Katie and Everett in that area, and it's amazing the relationships that they've been able to build and grow. All of these feed companies, when it comes to, when you go to a farm, you don't want to just be a salesperson, you want to be a resource. So when they ask their feed person about, well, what supplement would you recommend for hoof growth or joint health? They know exactly who they can recommend because they're underneath the same umbrella of PHN. I remember going into a store, and they were trying to get Pool and Grain into that store, and it was a DAC rep that I'd known for quite a while. She said, oh, I know you. I do. I get on all of your webinars. I trust you. I have faith in you. So, yeah, I'll jump on board with this brand. So that I feel like I'm proud of the PHN umbrella bringing that kind of knowledge and trust to the table. So just a few of different and disciplines that we've worked with. We work with, I say it doesn't really matter what tack you put on the horse, what language you speak to the horse, what country you're in. When you peel it all back, they all need to be fed the same. They all have the same GI tract. But people find it interesting to see the different things we do with horses. And in the West Coast, we work with reiners, Molly. We can't, this was a great photo. I just love this photo. But DAC, within the DAC group of clientele, that's just across the board, be it buggy horses, pulling horses, dressage horses, jumping horses, race horses, there's any number, every single discipline that you could think of or breed can fall into the DAC category, and successes in every single one of those. Company down in South Carolina, it's a big eventing, show jumping area, a lot of success there. High school rodeo champions. This is a feed company out of Kansas that we work with. Pool and Grain, as I mentioned, in New England, also touches lots of different disciplines. Barrel racing, cow horses. This is one that most people connect with Purina as the Clydesdales, the Budweiser Clydesdales, but we actually work with those with the Hay Company. In the Southern Hemisphere, so Australia, New Zealand, Dr. Duran works down there quite substantially with the thoroughbred and standardbred industries. champion stallions down, leading breeders, their version of the kind of Keeneland sales that we have up here. They have the Magic Million sales, and we're always leading those with our clients. Multiple different racehorse trainers also work directly with Dr. Duren. You get to that level of competition, and these people hire Dr. Duren and myself to be nutritionists. We develop formulations for them, but when you're at that level, having a nutritionist in your team, you've got veterinarians and dentists and exercise physiologists and trainers, but having a nutritionist on that team is also really important. Also work in Japan. I've been there a few times with Dr. Duren, and that's very interesting. Really interesting to going to different parts of the world, and whilst I say the horses are all the same, just the management of the horses is different. They have a lot of labor, so it's quite interesting. But Shaddai Stallion Station, these stallions, 30 stallions that shuttle all around the world, clients. And then stateside, some of you may be familiar with a farm called Windstar Farm out of Kentucky. They had the horse Justify, won the Triple Crown, who was also eating some DAC products when he won those races. But that is a private client that we work with as well. So typically our clients are feed companies, hay companies, supplement company, but we do have a few large farms that directly work with us. I'm proud of these. So we have Performance Horse Nutrition has actually been around for 20 years, and so last year we had a summit. We brought together our partners, and in order to kind of do some of those presentations, we actually reached out and asked them, over the years, what have been some things that ways that Performance Horse Nutrition has helped you? And this actually came from one of the DAC reps, and I think that these comments are really important. I don't have an animal background outside of cats. I hold an accounting degree, but with the help of Performance Horse Nutrition providing knowledge and giving me confidence, I've sold over $1 million in product last year, and I think that particular person has done that several years. But I had a young Amish gentleman call me the other day, and he was asking a bunch of questions about different products. And he said, he's now a dealer, and he said, when I was a kid, I came to one of the DAC meetings, and you taught us how to feed horses. You didn't talk about products. You talked about basics of feeding horses, about feeding multiple meals a day, about feeding enough hay and enough good quality hay to the horses. And he said, and without that, I don't think that I would have the success with horses that I've had today. And that, to me, that a young kid came to a meeting, heard that, and is now an adult with horses and is a real horseman, that made me feel really good. Maybe actually tear up a little, because it's that those kinds of things, they mean the world to me. So this was another one. I've worked for... This is a funny one. We all know who this is. So I've worked for DAC for 13 years. When I first started, I had Dr. Cubitt come out and travel with me. I 100% was not ready to be in the position I was in. Dr. Cubitt told me, sink or swim. I don't have a lot of filter, so I'm usually pretty... I'll tell you what I think. Dr. Cubitt didn't travel again with me for 8 years, but I began to reach out more and schedule her to travel with me at least twice a year. My business has now tripled due to my education from PHN, and there is a no-nonsense approach that Dr. Cubitt takes. Not a mean approach, but, you ask me about natural dewormers, they don't work. You ask Dr. Duren, he's sometimes a little bit more PC, depending on the day of the week that it is. You got him on a good day. Pulling grain, and I think it's nice to hear what other people are saying. What are our other clients saying about what we've brought to the table? And I'm sharing all of this with you because as a DAC dealer or DAC customers, you have access to us. There aren't many other supplement, feed, hay companies out there that will, as a dealer, selling their products, that they will give you access to their PhD nutritionists, 2 of them, to help support your growth and to support your business and any questions that you have. So I'm sharing this with you so that in order to take you to the next level, to really grow your business, this is a resource that you have available to you. Okay, so from Pool and Grain, we've enjoyed a long relationship with Performance Horse Nutrition. What makes Pool and Grain successful? The people. I say that all the time. This might be a statement coming from Pool and Grain, but what makes DAC different? It's the people. It's the people that we work with every day. It's a family. Every single DAC rep, when I work with them, I say, you're not a salesperson, you are a resource. You'll help them do hay testing. You know, if you don't know the answer, you'll find it. You always remember, you don't have to know all the answers, but you have to have enough people in your team that you can find any answer that you need. The PHN plays an important role for Pool and Grain. I don't think of them as partners, I think of them as part of the team. When we have questions, we can reach out to them, and they're excellent at getting back to us. PHN has helped Pool and Grain be the first to market with many innovations. In my time at Pool and Grain, PHN has helped us grow our horse feed tonnage over 116-fold. That's massive. You know, and this is what we do for all of our clients. Banks Mill Feeds, this was a really neat one. So I took them on at the beginning of COVID. And for 2.5 years, I'd never met this guy. His name's Jesse Mills, and I'd never met him. But he took the plunge. He believed in us. He believed in the success that our other partners had had. And in 2019, we came on board, and since then, he's had a 47% increase in sales. And we've never even, at that point, we had never been in his territory. That was just improving the education of his sales reps and improving the feed that he had. So when we came on board in 2010, I certainly was nowhere near as confident as I am now, and Dr. Duran took the reins on a lot of this early work, and it was, you know, he sat down with Randy, and Randy said, we need the labels. We need to update the labels. The labels need to be legal and easy to understand and uniform across the board. We need to make sure that all the formulas are up to date. Anything that's great, leave it alone. Anything that needs help, we need to update it, right? Is there anything new out there? Again, Randy's a horse trainer, excellent horse trainer. New, I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to find one. Found a group and put them on the team, and we all work together. Train the sales staff. Slow at first, and as I've started to work with them more and more over the years, you know, when we're driving around 8 hours a day from point A to point B to get to a meeting, we're not just sitting there staring out the window, you know. We're constantly talking about sales strategies and different products and ingredients and technologies, and even just different ways to talk about it. We can talk about chelated minerals 15 ways to Sunday, but I got to find the way that Doug is comfortable talking about it, that Katie is comfortable talking about it, that Everett, and you guys as well. We all have to say the same thing about the technologies, but we all have a different audience, and we have to find the ways that are comfortable for us to talk about it. So we chit-chat about those kind of things. Sales support and then customer support. My kids know now when my Amish customers are calling me, because if the sun's not shining, it means I can make phone calls. Because if I'm not out working, I can make phone calls. So 8, 9 o'clock at night, Mom, it's a work call, you know. So that was in 2010. We provide the nutritional expertise. You guys sell supplements. It was a match made in heaven, right? AFCO, American Association of Feed Control Offices, and they kind of dictate legally what has to be crude protein, copper, zinc. It tells you everything that needs to be on the labels. But then there's also NASC, so the National Animal Supplement Council, because AFCO goes over everything. It's feed companies, it's anything that comes in a bag, whether it be a bag of hay pellets or a bag of grain. If it's got a printed out label on it, then AFCO guides that. Supplements, though, didn't really have any kind of guidance, and the supplement industry was going insane because there really wasn't a lot of rules. And so for the consumer, that was very difficult. So from the very get-go, even before my time, DAC was one of the very, very early adopters of NASC, one of the earliest partners that helped start the NASC company, National Animal Supplement Company. And Aubrey is learning, she's over there working very hard right now, but she is learning how rigorous and how hard NASC is. They put us through the ringer, whether it comes to the catalog, the label, anything that's written on the internet, let alone how is your actual warehouse, your manufacturing facilities, and then when it comes to what you're putting in the product and what you're writing on the label. Not allowing any overt claims, like we're talking about the GI Pro 3. It's certainly not a treatment or a cure. It's a supplement, so not a drug. When you look at our labels, they're all written exactly the same way, and that is so that the consumer can understand and compare between products to make it easier to compare. When they help us with preferred suppliers, so we don't grow all of our own ingredients. We don't manufacture all the individual ingredients that go in our products. So let's say glucosamine, for example. There might be 50 different suppliers out there. Which is the best one? They help to guide us on suppliers that also have the same rigorous testing and quality control. So they give us a list of people that have gone through those same controls so that we can choose from them and have just an added level of security. When we're providing a standard to our customers and putting our name on the line, these guys help us to uphold that and know that everybody that we're working with also has those. So we've got two groups that we have to appease when we're writing all these labels and all this marketing material. So I've, over the years, done a lot of education. What you've seen more recently in the last 5 years, and this is not something that Dr. Duren does a lot of. If I can force him to get online, he will, but he loves to talk in front of people. But webinars. You know, for about the last 5-6 years, I think it's been, we do a webinar every month. And dealers and customers and the reps get on, and you all have access to that. And we talk about, in April, we'll do a recap of DAC days. We'll talk about GI Pro 3. End of the year, we kind of do a recap of the whole year. But again, that is an accessible training option. I know that a lot of people work during the day. So we do those on it's the first Thursday of every month at 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And so for California, it's 5 o'clock. But for those people that work during the day, this is easy. You can eat your dinner and listen to the webinar and write your notes, and it's from the comfort of your own home. At first, we maybe had 1 or 2 people phone in, but I think on our last webinar, we had 30 people phone in, 30 Amish customers phone in, and that's fantastic. I do the meetings, and if you want to have me come to your meeting in your area, talk with your rep, we've certainly done a lot of meetings in a lot of areas. And I find that really important because, like I said, I only get to see you guys once every few years. Who's going to be embarrassed? I quickly had to turn mine off because I thought, that's what will happen. Every time I know Dr. Duren is doing a talk, I actually call him, seeing if I can get that to happen. just funny, but anyway. I think the other thing that's really, really important is, we talk about meetings and we talk about education, and I know when you go to meetings, you can usually get great prices and stock up for the year. But ultimately, it's about the education. It's about that young guy coming to a meeting and say, I actually learned how to feed my horse. And that I held for the rest of my life. There's a joke. It's not really a joke. It is the truth that when I do meetings with Randy, I love it when he tells the story about the DAC oil and the customer that was really unhappy with the DAC oil and wanted her money back. And he said, well, ma'am, how much are you feeding? And she said, I'm not feeding it. I'm putting it on a rag and I'm wiping it on the horse. Right? Well, from the get-go, once we get past the few giggles, it's, that woman, the DAC oil was seen as a failure, but it wasn't. We were the failure because we didn't educate her on how to use it. We've had people complain about the foundation formula not putting weight on their horse. It's like, it's a hoof supplement. It's not going to put weight on your horse. Or I fed the oil for coat shine and my horse got fat. Yeah, well, it will get fat. So it's really knowing exactly what products, what they do, and what's important for your program, okay? Over the last 3 years, the most common question that I've gotten is, how do I decrease my feed bill? How do I keep feeding horses less expensive? Well, less expensive and horses don't go together, right? You don't got any money, go buy a goldfish. But if you want to stop wasting money, it's knowing exactly what the products do. Buy the product that is pertinent to the problem you're trying to solve. So don't just randomly go, oh yeah, I think I should feed a supplement. Well, let's go to the end and say, what is the problem I'm trying to address? So Andy comes to your farm and you call him up and say, what should I feed? You've got to ask. My horse doesn't have a very good hair coat. I'd really like to fix that. My horse has chronic diarrhea. I'd like to fix that. We need to know exactly what the problem is and work backwards and give you the products that are going to fix that problem. So as a consumer or as a dealer, you need to ask those questions of the customer. You need to find out what are they trying to address. Because otherwise we're just throwing mud at the wall and seeing if it sticks. We also work a lot with veterinarians. You know, I wanted to go to vet school when I was younger, and then I got terrible grades in high school. I went to undergrad for animal science, had a great nutrition professor, and ended up down this road. And I went to school on a scholarship. It was fantastic. I didn't have any huge bills. But veterinarians have to learn so much in a very short period of time. And I think they focus on the things that can kill the horses or the animals, right? And we all know, yes, nutrition can save a horse or kill a horse, but they really don't focus a lot on nutrition. And so with a younger audience of veterinarians, we've really developed great relationships with veterinarians. Again, that younger audience is realizing, I don't have to know everything, but I have to know where to get everything, right? I need to have people on my team that, number one, I can trust. And again, being a good resource, whether you're a dealer or a rep, is somebody that when the customer calls you and says, this is the problem, they know that you're going to give them the truth. The correct answer might be, let's evaluate your hay. Maybe we need to feed more hay. Maybe I need to help you find a better source of hay for your horses. Maybe that's the right answer, but the wrong person is going to say, well, let's try XYZ supplement. Well, down the road, we might need those supplements, but in order to give everything the best chance and do the right thing by that customer, we helped with the hay first. So you build trust, and then you have a customer or a friend, really, then, for a lifetime. And a lifetime of those sales is way more beneficial than one sale, one-off. So, well, it's not behind me, it's in front of me. But you can see how the labeling changed over the years. We have a lot more products that are in stores now, and consumers are driving labeling, and they're driving that it jumps off the shelf more, and it looks more attractive, and it looks more modern. And we went from the buckets to the foil bags, and I know there was a lot of grumbling there, but it was when you make products and you are shipping hundreds of thousands of pounds of product around, you also have the greater picture to look at. And these foil packages decrease waste in the environment, and they decrease shipping weights. And so it really was the better way to go. Also, all of these products across the board, whether it be DAC supplements or any supplements, light and air will break them down faster, right? And decrease their shelf life. So if you can have them in that Ziploc bag and you squeeze the air out of them and keep the light out of them, that is also going to lengthen their shelf life. But that's the total performance. You can see how we've, over the years, changed the look of the packaging and the labeling. Every year, this is something that kind of goes on behind the scenes that we don't talk about a lot, but every single year, I get all of the formulas and I evaluate them. And you go through and you look at all the ingredients and you look at the flavoring, and I take a year's worth of suggestions from the reps and from Randy and RJ, and any kind of complaints that we might have had through the year about certain products not being as palatable, or in certain seasons they're not palatable. And annually we evaluate every single product. A lot of times we don't have to make any changes, but again, how many of our competitors are annually evaluating everything? And we do that. And then we were also tasked with new supplements, new products, right? At the beginning, there were a lot of products that, say there were 3 products in the same lane, and they were all just slightly different from each other, so we cleaned it up. So we actually took quite a few away in the very beginning. But over the years, where there is science is constantly evolving, research is evolving, so new products, there's new issues with horses. 20 years ago, did we talk about leaky gut? Were we talking about gut health? Were we even really talking about the microbiome? Or, we certainly, as Dr. Duran mentioned, we knew that we needed healthy bugs to digest fiber, and that was about it. So those kind of lactic acid or yeast-based, that was where we were at. But over the years, we have so much more information, so much more research. We have a team of experts in all universities that we are constantly working with and making sure that we are staying ahead of all of the newest and greatest information that's out there. And then, is it something that could go into a product? Would it be saleable? Would it have enough market? Is there enough research? And that's how we kind of come up with products. Technical writing, back in the day, we used to do kind of a longer newsletter. I have a small section in the newsletter, obviously staff training, dealer training, veterinary training, webinars. You've all seen those. I'm quite proud of the annual end-of-year webinar now, because I always judge myself on how many people I can get on. So if you are feeling sorry for me, make sure that you get on my webinars, because I judge my usefulness by how many people got on. And I don't know, I think we had like 100 and some, nearly 200 people on our end-of-year webinar, and that was fantastic. Traveling with the sales reps. Comparisons, I hate doing comparisons. I hate comparing our products to others, but I will do it if we know that there's usefulness. I'm not going to go through all these. I've got 1,000 slides and about 20 minutes to go. So just skimming through some of the products that we made some changes with, the direct action, the original, the OG, as the young kids would say, altering some of the vitamin mineral profile to make it fit a lane. The other thing for me is I want everything to fit a lane. Right? I want everybody to be able to look at a product and say, that is used for this, and this is the lane it sits in. Sometimes we have a couple of products that will sit in that lane, but when you have like 15 products that could do the same thing, it makes it very difficult for you, the dealer, to sell it, and then a consumer to choose what they want. So I wanted products to really have a purpose and have a lane. The DAC Orange Superior, and really in the beginning, a lot of this evaluation of the products was also for Dr. Duran and myself to really understand those. We talked to the reps and found out, okay, what are they really used for? And then we were able to make adjustments to the products based on what they were used for. So maybe in the beginning they were designed for a certain reason, but over the years it's kind of been skewed and it's now used for something else. So we were able to kind of listen to their suggestions and make changes. The vitamin and mineral supplements they've all contained chelated vitamins and minerals, but that was something that was very, very important to Randy from the get-go. That was kind of the foundation of DAC, is those chelated minerals. There are still some companies today that do not use chelated minerals, which is absolutely mind-blowing, because for us here at DAC, it's not a technology anymore, it's a standard. You wouldn't make a product without it. So there are things that now have become standard and commonplace to us, but others still haven't jumped on that. So all of those vitamins and minerals, all the vitamin and mineral supplements have always contained those chelated minerals, and that's kind of a foundation, they always will. But the other thing we know we can do is based on year after year, hay changes, right? The lysine content, the protein content goes down. People are feeding different types of hay. So we're able to evaluate the supplements, evaluate the products based on what people do with horses changes. How people manage horses changes. 30 years ago, there wasn't an issue with gastric ulcers. I mean, when you first started training horses and competing horses, was ulcers the most important thing you ever thought about? I'm talking to Randy in the back there. He's looking at me. No, it wasn't. I mean, that is something that over the years, because horses are living in stalls, they're being transported. I mean, back in the day, you went to a show that was local to you. People weren't driving across from California to Florida to show, or Wisconsin to Florida to show. And that's very normal these days, that horses travel a lot more distance. I would even say, go out on a limb and say in the Amish community, because horses are more conditioned and more stamina, that you're even traveling longer distances with your horses than your grandparents would have. And so supplements have to change. They have to evolve, and we were able to do that. Breeders' Choice Plus, we know more people are breeding horses. We've learned so much more about, that's how I felt too. But my youngest is 7, and I did get my baby fix and held a little baby over there for a few minutes, and that was all I needed to make me realize why I don't want to have any more. So, very cute baby. So, the Breeders' Choice Plus, we're learning things like the DHA, the omega-3 fatty acids. We're now, when we're breeding horses, this is a business, and we need to get them pregnant as fast as we can after they've had that foal. And so doing things like adding omega-3 fatty acids is going to help that uterus snap back in place so that they can be rebred quickly. Breeders Excel was a new product that we brought into the market, just knowing that omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin E was so important for semen quality, and, again, that more and more people are using artificial breeding and preserved or stored, cooled or frozen semen with their mares, that was actually really beneficial to. Also, that stallions are breeding more mares. It's not, oh, well, I have a stallion and in my community is going to breed 10 mares in a season. It's 20 or 30. So we have to do things to keep up with how we're managing horses. So the Breeders Excel was an omega-3 fatty acid supplement that fit that need, fit that void that we didn't have prior to. The colt grower, we've been growing babies forever, and for a long time we've known the issues are always with leg and joint issues, but I think the education has grown, especially with the seminars I do on young growing horses, and we've really shifted the focus away from once the foal is born to we're now really thinking about what that mare is getting. That foal is already growing in utero, but because you can't see it, sometimes people didn't put as much emphasis on it. And then once he's born, really understanding that joints will kind of mature from the ground up. So knowing, okay, if it's the fetlock that we've got some issues in, we can kind of back calculate where that might have happened and where we could avoid that in the future. We're now using those technologies, the marine calcium Dr. Duran talked about for buffering stomach acid. One of the big things that it also does is increase bone density that so many people don't think about. So that's been really interesting, and it's been, just over the years doing it, you also hear so many different testimonials and stories that help you develop programs for horses. The CMZ paste has gone through some iterations, but it's copper, manganese, and zinc. It's really about the education of where this product fits and the cartilage and bone development, but when to use it. It's a great product, but am I going to use it with a 5-year-old? No. We've got to be ahead of these problems and get these problems. So it's really these therapeutic problems about education of the best time to use it. I can laugh because she's my neighbor, so. And I ate all the candy last night, so. The DAC Ian selenium, again, when we came on board, it was synthetic vitamin E. It's always been the organic selenium, which has been great. That's an Alltech product. But we realized more about vitamin E and how vitamin E is absolutely critical. We'll talk about it a little bit more later on because we actually came out with a specific vitamin E supplement. But horses get natural vitamin E from fresh green grass, and most of our horses just don't have enough access to fresh green grass. So we saw that as, again, this has to be standard, that we're using natural vitamin E and not synthetic vitamin E. And across the board, where you see vitamin E, it's natural vitamin E. The hoof supplement, this has been very interesting, and we've actually, using sources of zinc and methionine and biotin that are really bioavailable to the hoof. But also, most people think a hoof supplement should just be biotin, right? And so the education there over the years has also been really interesting. Increasing the amount of those nutrients in that product so that the daily serving was actually going to give all that they needed. Electroaid. Most electrolytes have a lot of sugar in them. Why? To drive palatability. You ever had Gatorade? My kids want Gatorade all the time. Not because it has any health benefit, because it's sweet and they love the taste of it and they'll drink more of it and drink more of it. And putting sugar in an electrolyte actually decreases the uptake of the electrolyte salts. The companies selling that don't mind because it just means you have to buy more because I'm not that hydrated. So I got to go buy more. Pedialyte tastes awful, super salty, but that's kind of the best case scenario. So you'll see that the DAC electrolytes do not have any sugar in them. So that was something else. Again, he's not here, but this was in 2010 at the World Equestrian Games, and DAC was a partner, and we were the official nutritionists, and I think they were from Denmark or Holland. Oh, yeah. He had hair back then. DAC Bloom, over the years, it's a common question that I get, when I first started, people thought it was a protein supplement, and it was just going to, replace any need for protein, but really, over the years, we've evaluated the protein sources. And if you look at any other livestock feed, they don't feed crude protein and just basic protein. They break it down into all the amino acids. If you look at a dairy diet or a pig diet, we're down into the nitty-gritty. We know exactly what amino acids we should be feeding, which ones help with stamina and recovery and egg production and all of that. And so the Bloom has really gotten a lot more scientific and so has a lot more of those different amino acids in it. So definitely will help with stamina recovery, with some of that top line. Great fat source. I always say the Bloom, though, will correct poor hair coat, while oil will just make your hair really shiny. So for me, that's been something that I differentiate between the two, because hoof is just hard hair, so the DAC Bloom will also help with hoof quality. You can see there in the box, we've got breaking down all the different amino acids. And DAC oil, this was one from the very beginning that do not make a change to the DAC oil. This is our top seller. From the get-go, they've sold tractor-trailer loads of DAC oil, but there were things that needed to change, and over the years we've made those changes. Now the DAC oil is a canola oil based, and it has a very large amount of vitamin E in it that you're not going to see in a lot of other oils. And we actually get that vitamin E direct from the manufacturers. So across the board, whether you're Purina, Nutrien, all the different companies will buy vitamin E from the same source, and they take sunflowers and they concentrate them down and make an oil that they don't usually sell that oil. But that oil then they dry out into powdered vitamin E, and that's what they sell on the open market. But we have tapped into using that very concentrated oil source, and that's what we put in the DAC oil. So Herbal Respond, these were some products that didn't really have any changes. The yucca across the board, it uses that deodorace and yucca shitagira extract from Alltech. I'm going to skip through some of these. DDA, again, another one. Don't change it. At the very beginning, Rescue Aid was 911, and we changed the name. And that one, do not modify. I left it there because it was like, do not touch this product. Over the years, we've slightly been able to make changes, and this is where we now put a lot of our, the GI Pro 3, the Beautipearl, because it's a therapeutic product. it has always had a very strong following. And as the trust relationship between Randy and Dr. Duran and myself grew over the years, okay, they're not going to do anything that's going to sabotage any of the products. It's going to grow. It's going to be okay. And so the Rescue Aid, we've made some significant changes to, and for the better, I think. So the new products that we've come out with over the time of Performance Horse Nutrition and DAC, we've had the E-Natural, just straight vitamin E. The Cool Gut, I'm most proud of that one, I think, the Cool Gut. The E-Boost paste, it was the old race booster paste, and we completely kind of threw it on its end and put some different ingredients in there, the chromium in there for recovery. The LQHA Plus, so Randy had seen in the industry, a lot of people were requesting a liquid joint supplement. So again, this is, I'm seeing in the industry, it's not only just being on the outside trying to sell into an equine industry, but it's having people in the industry knowing what people want. Like, there's no point making products that are great if nobody wants them. So what do people want? They wanted a liquid joint supplement. We listened, we made the LQHA Plus. You know, I had never been a huge proponent of a joint supplement for young horses to that point. So the Optimum Flex powder, I wasn't really feeding to young horses. But then we have the LQHA Plus, and in developing that product, we realized, and the research was now showing that young horses, that joint in there, that all that joint fluid that lubricates that joint is primarily made of hyaluronic acid. And when you stress that horse, doing extra exercise because you're starting that horse, that stress increases cortisol in the body, but that cortisol then will thin out that joint fluid. What's going to help just slowly maintain day-to-day wear and tear and thinning of that joint fluid? Hyaluronic acid. Right? So this liquid hyaluronic acid that doesn't taste like anything, great for those young horses. The pre-buff. Pre-buff was, again, I'm seeing in the industry, people want to immediately buffer horses. We've got them on, maybe they're using medications or they're using Cool Gut, but they also want that added level of, I'm going to put a horse on a trailer now, or I'm going to take a horse to a show now, and I want to make sure that I've got buffering right now. I'm going to take my buggy horse to church, and he's going to stand all day, and I want to know that before I come home, I can give him something that's going to work now. Because most of our products work within 30 days. The DDA, you should see some changes in a couple of days. This is one of those that it is instantaneous. We did research with the University of Kentucky looking at how quickly it would buffer that stomach acid. All right? Instantaneous. Postulic. For me, I want people to feed their horses every day, but the Postulic, it fit a need, right? There are horses out there that weren't getting anything, getting a trace mineral salt block. They're out in the back 40 and they weren't getting fed every day, so the Postulic, again, filled a huge void. Huge seller. Tractor trailer loads of that thing go out. And no, I can't make them any lighter, okay? They are heavy, yes. Think of it as exercise. Up and down, right? The DAC Metabolic, that was probably the most recent product that we came out with. And again, it took me a lot of years to come to that product because there was herbs here and magnesium there and any number of other weird things that people said would get the weight off their horse or get the crest off their horse or change glucose and insulin. I'm like, no, none of those things work. None of those things, maybe there's been one study, but never was able to be repeated. So when we look at, it's not just that one person did the science. When you look at, is there enough science across the board? Doesn't matter, like, you know, in the last 5 years, we constantly getting it rammed down our throat. Do your research, do your research. Doing your research means finding multiple studies that showed the same thing. Anyone can do it once, but can you repeat it over and over again? And then when I read the study, I look, okay, is this real life? Did they do this study, and is this what my clients, is this the world they live in? A lot of studies are done on mice. They're tiny little things. And if you feed them this much of said thing, whatever you're trying to test, of course it's going to do something to your mouse. It's 50 times bigger than your mouse. Is that real world? No. We got a giant horse, and we want to be able to feed this much of something and have it do something. I am not going to, feed 50 tons of something to get a response in my horse. So we have to make sure that it's repeatable. And is it realistic? The amount that we have to feed, is it realistic? So there are just some things that go through my mind when we evaluate ingredients to go in our products. There seems to be a lot of questions still rolling around about natural vitamin E. I have to get on Furman's case. Hopefully he's still in here to hear me say this. Got to get a ribbon on everybody. When I first said, I want to sell natural vitamin E, just straight natural vitamin E, nothing else in it, Furman said, no one's ever going to buy that. What's wrong with you? And he got so much of it into the warehouse. And I was like, I'm the kind of person, you tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to do it to spite you. And so I was doing meetings, I don't know, with Andy or Everett after that, and I was like, we have got to sell this stuff, sell all of it. Furman has got to be freaking out about back orders. And we did. So, but natural vitamin E, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Horses get vitamin E out of fresh green grass. The majority of horses don't eat fresh green grass, and they don't eat enough of it. I like to give horses things that they would have normally gotten in their environment, right? And then if you look at stress, and everything stresses horses, and what does stress cause? It causes this oxidation, breakdown of cells. What is vitamin E? It's an antioxidant. It's going to stop the effects of stress, all right? So who needs it? I mean, everything needs it. There's very few horses that don't need it. Horses in Kentucky that eat plenty of fresh green grass probably don't need it. Also, our requirements set by scientists for different vitamins and minerals, they're very old to start with, and they also don't take into account all of the stress and all of the exercise that we do with horses. So the industry certainly has shifted the kind of lower minimum amount of vitamin E. So most people are grabbing at protein supplements to try and put weight on their top line on their horse. For me, it's vitamin E. Vitamin E, if we've got poor muscles, if the muscles aren't recovering well, if we're feeding all the feed and we're doing all the right exercise, it's vitamin E. A lot of buggy horses we've put on vitamin E, and we've really seen a change in that body structure. Also very concentrated, so it turns out to be one of the most cost-effective sources of vitamin E on the market as well. Cool Gut, you heard me say that that's one of my babies. Okay, so when I designed the Cool Gut, I wanted a product that was going to work in the stomach and the hindgut, right? There's products that work in the stomach and there's products that work in the hindgut, but I wanted to work in both places. And even this product, which we consider one of our newer products, has gone through iterations. So the Beautipearl, right? It wasn't in it at first. We made the Cool Gut and people loved it, and then the Beautipearl comes around. I mean, this is a great ingredient. I want to put it in the Cool Gut. Well, the Cool Gut's a tiny pellet, right? The Beautipearl, Dr. Duran said it stinks. When you try to put it in a tiny pellet with the heat and the steam and the pressure, you need to let the smell out. And I got Furman. This warehouse smells like throw up. It smells like dog's breakfast. We cannot have this in here. I was like, just bear with it, it's fine. No, finally I smelled it and I was like, no, you can't have this. So we took the Beautipearl out of the Cool Gut. Again, it's just changing, right? It's understanding, it's hearing. Mechanically, it didn't work in that particular product. Beautipearl's still great, Cool Gut's still great, but we tried it, it didn't work mechanically in that situation. We've now the calci powder, that calcite, that was another iteration that we put in the Cool Gut. So the Cool Gut, even though it's pretty new, we're always improving it. We're always making sure that we're staying up to date with the latest things that are in there. The E-Boost we talked about, it was the race booster, and now we put different amino acids, different branch chain amino acids. It's got that chromium, so the chromium helps get more glucose into the cell to help with performance. Also helps with immune function and muscle development. The LQHA+, that liquid joint supplement, we talked about that. The pre-buff, another one that I'm proud of, it's just straight up liquid marine calcium. Instantaneously buffers that acid. So super simple technology, simple idea, but has a huge purpose, huge role, fills a big need. The lick tub, you know about the lick tub, now with the added fly control, which I think is a great idea. that natural fly control. The DAC metabolic. Newer products, still sometimes some confusion. This is another one that I'm sure throughout this year I will be reevaluating. We make it currently in a facility that makes milk protein, milk products, like milk replacer products. So this is, when I said to them, this is for horses with crusty necks, fat, insulin resistance. The consumer, not the horse, the person buying that product does not want to see grain listed on that tag at all, in any quantity, all right? They want to keep the sugars and starches low. Ideally, I would have loved to have alfalfa base, right? Nice green pellet. No, this is a milk company, and they don't have anything green ever come through the doors because nobody wants green milk. That's gross, okay? So, based on the manufacturing facility, we have been limited. So it's a whey protein base. Some of you say it smells after a while, and that's the whey protein. So we'll evaluate, but ideally, this is the chromium and magnesium. Chromium helps to upregulate those insulin receptors in a horse that's fat and has that crusty neck. They're insulin resistant because those insulin receptors don't work. The chromium fixes that. Super simple, okay? And the magnesium also has some research that it will help with glucose and insulin regulation. Calcite, we've talked about the marine calcium. These are some just ingredients that we've put into all these products. Bone density, super strong when using calcite. It's in the cool gut. It's in the colt grower. The colt grower with those young growing foals. Where do I put these ingredients to have the most bang for their buck? Well, that colt is growing, and I want to make sure that I'm supporting all of that development. I probably will eventually put it in the Breeder's Choice Plus, too. Pre-buff, got the calci powder in it. Stress, we know that stress comes from everywhere. We've talked about leaky gut over the years, more recently, and how in the hind gut we have these cells lining the intestinal wall, and they have these fingers. This is the intestine in here, and then here between the cells are these things called tight junctions. They're Velcros. They're supposed to stay strong, but when you stress a horse, they break down. And the butapearl, the butyric acid that we were talking about earlier, we put that in with the zinc, and it helps to heal those. So I really am super excited about the Rescue Aid now. And that was, you remember, Randy, in the very beginning, do not touch the 911. We changed the name, and over the years, it's the one that we constantly, if there's a new technology that's going to help gut health, that's where it goes, because that product, as a paste, as a powder, is so therapeutic, and that's, we've got the Butapearl in there, we've got the GI Pro 3 in there now, so we're keeping the gut healthy, we're keeping the actual contents of the gut healthy. You live under a rock if you don't know that the gut is the most important part of the horse, and without a healthy gut, then it doesn't matter about the horse. So really, I think that nutrition, the foundation of DAC's program, the nutrition, that ultimately keeping horses healthy. Rescue Aid paste and powder. Chromium, we talked about chromium. Helps heat stress, all kinds of stress. My clock's going down, so I'm getting off. It's in the DAC metabolic, it's in the e-boost paste, and it's in the racing formula. That's the chromium. We've also had people off-label use the DAC metabolic for those brood mares, milk production. Been using chromium in the dairy industry for years to improve milk production because you're driving more glucose, more energy to make milk. So you can always call me if that's something that you struggle with your mare. Questions on anything? Randy's got a question. Yeah, touch on the Butapearl Z. Open up your catalog. Everybody open up your catalog. Look, this lady's smart. She gave me that idea because she had it open. I was like, great idea. In the very back. All right, next to the buck thing. Look, you guys all got hot and bothered about these deer things earlier. And Dr. Duran's talking like it's all his idea. Gee whiz, I let him have his moment. But I was with Andy and all these people, oh, look at my deer antlers. Look at the picture of the buck I shot. I'm like, I don't hunt anything. Whatever. I go to the grocery store. I grow my cows. That's what I eat. But I said, Andy, you think that these people would buy you think if we did a deer supplement? And he was like, yeah, I think so. I came back, Furman, you think these people have a deer supplement? I said to RJ, he said, you will not believe. I think that's a great idea. So yeah, thank you. Dr. Duran, and then I told Dr. Duran, it's like, oh yeah, this is like the project I've wanted to do my whole life. You're welcome. So anyway, the Beautipearl ZEQ. Okay, so here, you know my philosophy. If the horse makes something, if we know that the horse already makes a certain ingredient or product or nutrient to help protect itself, that's the way it's meant to be. So we know that the bugs, all those bugs living in the hindgut, Kirsten's laughing at me because I'm waving my hands, one of the bugs in there makes butyric acid, right? In a healthy horse, they make butyric acid. What does butyric acid do? Its only role in life is to feed intestinal cells. Feed the cells along the lining of the gut to keep it healthy. That is why the bugs make it. Okay? So in my mind, I think, okay, how can we support that? I don't have to reinvent the wheel and try and come up with some crazy thing that's going to help heal or feed those intestinal cells. I already know the butyric acid is what the bugs make. So if we look at the healthy system, we started working with Kemen and learned more about stress in other animals, right? It's very hard to get this data in horses because everybody's horse in here does a different thing. Everybody has a different level of stress and success. But in dairy cows and pigs and chickens, where you've got thousands and thousands of animals that you can do this stress research on, gut health makes or breaks any one of those livestock operations. You can destroy a whole operation with poor gut health. Right? And so all of this research was done looking at, again, they all have bugs in their gut, a microbiome, looking at improving this gut health using butyric acid encapsulated in zinc, because again, zinc also heals all those cells. When you go to the store and you buy an immune supplement, you all think you're buying vitamin C. Really, the zinc is the most important part of that. Zinc heals your gut. 75% of your immune system is in your gut, right? So the Beautipearl Z is butyric acid encapsulated in zinc. Again, the problem with horse supplements that is different from cow supplements is a cow opens its mouth, swallows the product, and it's where it needs to be to affect its microbes in that stomach in the beginning. But in the horse, got to get through the acid in the stomach, through the enzymes in the small intestine, and make it to the hindgut. So that encapsulation in the zinc also protects that butyric acid from the acidic stomach, and it's been made so that as it goes down the intestine, as it goes down the horse's GI tract, it slowly breaks down, so that once we get to the hindgut, the zinc has broken down enough that it can be absorbed and the butyric acid can be absorbed in the hindgut, and it heals those tight junctions, right? So we stop that leaky gut. Symptoms in your horse that you would see if your horse has a breakdown in the hindgut, like hindgut ulcers or chronic diarrhea that you can't fix. Tried everything. Tried, 5 times the dose of DDA. Tried everything. Can't get the diarrhea to stop. Most likely got leaky gut. So that's where those cells are open and all the junk out of the intestine is flowing into the bloodstream. Causes whole body inflammation. Ever done an allergy panel on a horse and it lights up like a Christmas tree? Thing is allergic to everything. Anyone had that? Yeah, okay. Help me out here. Put your hand up. Okay, good. Right? Got hives all over the horse and we don't know what's wrong with it. Vet does an allergy panel, looks, and it's allergic to grass and pollen and beet pulp and soy and, life itself, oxygen. Okay. The horse actually isn't allergic to any of those things. The whole body is in a chronic state of inflammation because junk is leaking out of its gut into its bloodstream, and the whole body is just going crazy trying to get this stuff. The bloodstream doesn't just stay in its finger, right? the blood is a highway, a superhighway that goes all over. So all this junk that leaked out of its stomach and out of its intestine into the bloodstream is now going all over the whole body. And the body goes into a state of inflammation. And when you do so hives, allergies, poor skin, scurfy skin, bad attitude, diarrhea, poor hooves, all of these things are symptoms of that, as Dr. Durham would say, hindgut dysbiosis, breakdown in the hindgut, leaky gut. The butyric acid in the Rescue Aid powder and the Rescue Aid paste have been a game changer. At first, we only had it in the paste. So I'd say 7 tubes of paste, 1 a day, that's going to help. It was a little pricey, and we got it in the powder, right? Because I had been nervous about putting that butyric acid back in anything again, other than the paste was like all enclosed and it wouldn't smell. Then I was like, well, the Rescue Aid powder is not a pellet. It's not going to get broken down. So we'll try it in there. Doesn't stink, right? No one says it stinks, good. And in the powder, 3 ounces a day, and again, we've had really good success with that leaky gut, with that chronic diarrhea. You'll notice one of the things, in order to find the space to put all these things, the kind of therapeutic dose of the Rescue Aid is 3 ounces now. It used to be 2 ounces, but I talked to all the reps and they're like, well, people feed 3 or 4 ounces anyway, so why don't you just... So in order to fit everything in, it's now 3 ounces as the therapeutic dose. So 3 ounces of Rescue Aid or 1 tube of Rescue Aid paste will give you the same amount of Butapearl or GI Pro 3 now too. We put it in therapeutically at 3 ounces. If the horse isn't eating, can't get it to eat anything, do the paste. If it's eating, go with the powder. Does that touch it? Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, I think Dr. Cubitt's going to be up later this afternoon for more Q&A. I think we've got a break going now, so...
You need another break, really?
We'll give her a little break as well. We're going to do some door prizes real quick, but thank you, Dr. Cubitt. We really appreciate it. We'll finish up our door prizes again. Grab your name tag. We're going to start with 315, 315. Where we at? All right, just grab a centerpiece. If they're missing from your table, if someone else has one sitting around them, just go ahead and get it over. Looks like we can pass this one down the table here. Hold your hand up high so we can see. There we go. Yep. We'll get you one from somewhere. What about 402, 402? All right, make sure you grab one off the table somewhere. 295. 295, there's one right there. 182, 182. 182. All right, we'll skip that one. What about 313, 313? 313? You had 182 or 313? Okay, gotcha. Grab that. What about 322, 322? Okay. 375, 375. No? There we go. Okay, make sure you grab one. 386. 386, if you got that, go ahead and grab a centerpiece. 369. 369. Okay, 390 or 393. 393. There we go, make sure you grab one. And then we'll do one more here, 279. 279. All right, if you got 279, grab one. We'll take a short 15-minute break, I think, RJ? 15-minute break real quick. 10-minute break, short 10-minute break. We'll come back, finish up.